Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lossico's Thorough Newspaper Analysis. Today is 26th August 2020, and let's see what topics are important for today's newspaper. So, the topics that we found were important from today's newspaper are as follows. First, the marginalization of justice in public discourse. Here, the author talked about how justice is not talked about in the usual public discourse these days and why it is so important. Secondly, down but not out. Uh, Here, there was a warning given by an officer saying that the presence of Islamic State is still there in certain regions, and we will discuss about that. The third article is a chance to donate desktops. Here, the author talks about how we can utilize the opportunity today and use it to donate desktops to the needy institutions. And lastly, the news and flash section, which is Lossico's own initiative, giving you short topics that will be important for your preliminary exams point of view. Before moving on to the main discussion, let's talk about the courses that are available on Lossico's website. We have the lot of the courses for your judiciary test preparations. You can download free study material as a sample by clicking on this button. We have other various courses to prepare you for CLAT exam, for bar exam. There's a judgment writing course, and there's a SEBI graded test prep course as well. So we highly recommend that before examinations are on your head, you take advantage of these courses and are fully prepared so that you can ace all these tests. Coming back to the topics for today, let's discuss the MCQ. The MCQ question is, which of the following neighboring country of India is infamous for its Rohingya refugee camps? Pakistan, Bangladesh, China, or Sri Lanka? Please do mention in the comment box what you think the correct answer is. The descriptive question for today is, write a note on terrorism and its global effects with respect to the continued presence of ISIS in certain remote regions of the world. Please try writing this answer within the word limit of 350 words, and you can also mention this in the comment box and we will try to reply to your comments. Now coming back to the first topic for today, that is justice in public discourse. Now in this article, the author says that the public discourse in India today is dominated by two main ideas, that is self-interest and national glory. We all also, when we talk on a day-to-day basis, and everybody else in India, when they talk on day-to-day basis, that is discourse, we mainly talk about self-interest, that is how we can utilize the opportunities to our benefits, and national glory, which is the discourse that has become very prevalent in the past few years. The author says that, however, the consequence of this is not being realized in the sense that we tend to ignore the effects of these discourses. He says self-interest leads to severe inequalities and marginalizes concerns for a fair distribution of benefits and burdens. That is, by a presence of these particular discourses, there is an effect on discourse about justice, on the discourse about fair distribution of benefits and burdens. And then consequently, the author says that what we need is that a discourse about justice should be there in the public today. So then he talks about what justice is. Let's discuss what justice is, according to the author. So he says each person gets what is properly due to him or her. So in the article, the author says that justice can be talked about in two ways. Firstly, a hierarchical concept of justice, and secondly, an egalitarian notion of justice. So according to a hierarchical concept of justice, hierarchical notion had been temporarily opposed in early teachings of Buddha, Indian epics, Bhakti poetry, and Vaishnavism. What he says is hierarchical notion basically is distribution of justice in the way that a person is born. So say for example, a person is born in a rich family. In that case, he will get more resources and he will get less burdens. If somebody is rich, they tend to have more money and consequently they get more resources as well. So that is a hierarchical concept. Secondly, he talks about an egalitarian distribution where everybody gets things, materials, resources of our country equally. And here, when he talks about egalitarian notion, he says that egalitarian notion is basically based on what is due to a person. Now, what is due is also a concept which can be divided into two units, in the sense that it can be divided into a need-based concept and it can be divided on a desert-based concept, which is also known as just desert. If you have studied theories, then this is what it is known as. So, need-based concept, it means that a person should get resources according to that particular person needs. And desert based concept of justice is that a person should get the resources according to what that particular person deserves. So the author says in the end that an ideal notion of justice is where a particular person gets a balance of what he needs and a balance of what he deserves. If the society as a whole is able to provide resources to individuals on need based as well as deserving basis, in that case we will be able to achieve justice. Benefits and burdens are equally shared and distributed, again on the basis of needs and desert. Then the author also says justice acquires value in society with moderate scarcity, where people are forced to deal with those who they don't love, in the sense that we distribute resources. Say, for example, you distribute certain resources to a beggar. You don't necessarily love a beggar, but you distribute the resources because based on the concept of justice. And that is what the author says: justice acquires value when things like this happens. Ultimately, what this whole article is trying to say is that we need to put justice, a discourse about justice, back in our public discourses. The public needs to think and talk about justice, which is lacking in today's time. The second article for today is terrorism in West Asia and Africa. Let's see why why we're discussing this topic today. So the UN Counter-Terrorism Chief to Security Council has made a statement on continuing presence of Islamic State in West Asia and African region. So IS, as we know, is a terrorist group that the whole world was aware about, and it had created a nuisance for the entire world with its terrorist activities. In 2014, it had established its presence in Iraq and Syria, which became its proto-state. However, after a war of which almost went around for 4 years, they have been substantially eliminated. But the UN officer, the Chief to Security Council, he has stated that there is a continuing presence of IS in West Asian and African region. Now, this is a cause of concern. Why? Because IS itself became such a big terrorist organization, and it created a problem for the entire world, even though it was just a breakaway part of a faction of Al Qaeda, which was another terrorist organization. So being a breakaway faction of Al Qaeda, it created such a big nuisance for the entire world. Now that its presence is still continuing, it is definitely a cause of concern, and we should take it seriously. Current status of terrorism in West Asia and Africa. So he says that more than 10,000 IS fighters are active in Iraq and Syria. So they were already earlier, when they had established their presence, they had established their presence in Iraq and Syria. And even now, after the war is over, around 10,000 IS fighters are still there. IS has a province in West Africa with nearly 3,000 fighters. So they have also established their different areas in West African regions also. This is certainly a big cause of concern for the governments all over the world. How the presence of terrorists is affecting the neighboring countries. After losing territories, IS withdrew from front lines and started operating in cells in the outskirts of conflict-ridden countries. Now, we know that the war was over, which lasted around 4 years. Various countries put in their resources. After the IS withdrew from these areas, they continued their presence in around the outskirts of conflict-ridden regions. That means it's not entirely, the group is not entirely over. some people are still present. So we should take care about it. Now, their continuous presence can be seen in Afghanistan. The ethnic and religious minorities are being attacked. We continuously see that there have been terrorist attacks. Syria, where we know that there was a dispute that had been going on in Syria between the government and between the rebel faction of the country. Now, because of this whole dispute, there is a possibility that the rebels, which are mostly the citizens of that particular country, the rebels are being fueled by particular terrorist organization. We cannot eliminate that possibility. Jihadist and rebels control the Idlib province of Syria. In northeast, Kurdish rebels declared autonomy, and in Turkish border, Turkey has carved out a buffer. So, if you look at this map of Syria, this is the Idlib region, and it has been said that rebels control these areas. Now, because there is a possibility that rebels are being supported by certain terrorist organizations also, which might include IS, there's a chance that there are certain IS fighters in this region. Then in Iraq, pro-Iran Shia militias continue to target US troops inside Iraq. And in Libya, the Libyan conflict between two governments has spilled over into Mali and Burkina Faso, where jihadists have established. Again, the whole point of telling you these areas where these rebellions have been taking place is that when there is a conflict between the government and a rebel faction, there is a high chance it provides an opportunity to terrorist groups to take advantage of their situation and to join with the people and protest against the government. And because such protests have been taking place in these following countries, there is a chance that IS has taken advantage of such opportunities. Because ultimately, who supplies arms to these people, like guns and heavy military instruments? Since these people have heavy military instruments, there is a chance that certain terrorist organization is involved. Coming to the third article for today, which is about desktop and digitization. Let's see why this article was written. Due to COVID-19, the companies are shifting from desktops to laptops to facilitate work from home. Now, we all know that most of us work from home, and when we work from home, we certainly need technology to our advantage. The use of desktop can be used to help the underprivileged. Yes. So, since we all need technology, mostly we use devices that are movable. We don't most of the time use desktops. So desktops have been eliminated to a very large extent. Now this article is saying when desktops have been eliminated, we can use this opportunity and we can help the underprivileged. How our Prime Minister has been continuously focusing, and even this is the need of the hour, that the digital divide in our country is eliminated. The pandemic has further widened the divide between digital haves and have-nots. We know a very large population of India does not have access to digital technologies as a lot of other people have. New education policy outlines the need for using digital channels for education. Typical cycle time for replacing desktop is 3 to 4 years. Now, we know that there is a need to bridge the digital gap that is existing in our country. And what we can do to bridge this digital gap is to donate whatever existing devices we have at our homes to the people or to the organizations that need them the most. So what steps are needed to implement a donation system? Here the author gives certain steps that can be used. He says collaboration of multiple government departments, industries, corporate houses and NGOs. Again, if these organizations collaborate, it will be easier to form a distribution channel. Changes to asset depreciation policy, obtaining clearances from government bodies such as SEZs, software technology parks. Again, we can obtain clearances to make the distribution system easier. Then formatting and refurbishing the machines. The machines which are old, they can be formatted. Installing new operating systems and basic softwares. Identifying deserving institutions. So by doing all these steps, by taking all these carefully taken steps, what we can do is everybody and all of us can contribute towards reducing the digital divide in our country. Some more steps that we can take is provision for continued maintenance and support. Funding is very important. We can provide funding through CSR. The companies, as we all know, companies under Companies Act, there is a provision that companies, all the companies involved in CSR, that is corporate social responsibility, under which there are multiple provisions saying that companies can do a lot of XYZ actions. They can donate, they can contribute towards development of underprivileged sections of society, so that they have certain contribution towards the society. So this funding for this donation system can also be provided by companies, and ultimately this can help reduce the digital divide in our country. Coming to the news in flash section. So this is where your MCQ question from today came from. The Rohingya Muslims refugees in Bangladesh held a silent protest to make the third anniversary of clashes between insurgents and Myanmar security forces. So what is happening is that a lot of clashes have been taking place between in the Rohingya community and the security forces. And because of this, the Rohingya Muslim refugees in Bangladesh held a silent protest against these clashes. Currently, more than 1 million Rohingyas live in southern Bangladesh, which is the world's largest refugee settlement. So Rohingyas are refugees which have settled in Bangladesh, and it's important that you know certain facts about Rohingyas because this dispute has been going on for a very long time now. And since this is in our neighboring India's neighboring countries, therefore it is important to know everything about this dispute from your exams point of view. Thank you. Hopefully this session was useful, and keep tuned to Lossy Course for more such.